Now, back to the graphic. Instead of working our way up the levels, I want to jump to the top, to the professional level. The reason I want to do that is because these models are totally out of range. I mean, there's no way that you're going to get one of these cameras. But I just wanted to give you an idea of what they offer. See here on this next graphic, we've got brand names like the Red offer several cameras, all top of the line, 4K, even 8K, very, very expensive cameras. Blackmagic Design, very good cameras. Look at that Blackmagic Design frames per second. You know, I would be ecstatic with the camera that can do 60, and look at that, it can do 300. Wow. And look at that Canon EOS C700. I mean, just for $33,000, that could be yours. To be fair, this is not a DSLR that fits in your hands. This is a huge camera that you're only going to find it on a movie or TV production. And the reason I put it on this list was I think this was the model that was being used when I was last on set. And yes, oh boy, she is just oozing with power. What features do you need for filmmaking at the no budget level? Well, zoom lens, that's a real important one. It needs to be more than 20 times or 20x, because this is what gives you bokeh, that important blurred background. You know, we've just mentioned bokeh at least twice now. Is it really that important? CE alert! CE alert! CE alert! And today's closer examination topic is going to be depth of field. You know, when we talk about depth of field, it's actually shallow depth of field that we're referring to. Sometimes referred to as bokeh, and bokeh is this fake Japanese word that refers to the blur in the background. Because shallow depth of field is in reference to objects that are closest to the camera lens really, are going to be in focus, while more distant objects are going to be out of focus or in a state of blur. That's shallow depth of field. Somewhere along the line we just dropped the word shallow. But there's something called deep depth of field also, and that's just completely the opposite. Objects further away from the camera are actually in focus, and objects that are a little closer are usually out of focus, as you can see in the clip I'm showing you right now. Now, depth of field, shallow depth of field, whatever you want to call it, is important for two reasons. Number one, it gives your two-dimensional film a three-dimensional look. And that's very important because it's pleasing to the eyes. And it's not just in film that we do that. If you look at a lot of landscape paintings, you'll see the same thing. 1-800 Bob Ross, the late Bob Ross used to do this all the time with hills and mountains in the background. So we perceive that type of look where distant objects are as a realistic view of life. Is that always true? No, it's not. No, it's not. On a clear day, you can see many details in the mountains in the distance. But normally, there's kind of a mist, it's kind of a blurry, and so we consider that look to be realistic. The other reason why we have to use this shallow depth of field in film is it gives our audience a very strong hint to where their eyes should be focused on, and that is the things that are in focus. What's closest to the camera? Usually your actors. Why are the actors important? Well, it's mainly because they have the dialogue that's going to move this story along. So that's what we want people to concentrate on. Yes, there are things happening in the background. You know, your actors could be at a ball game. They could be at a picnic in a park. They could be on the street with people passing by. They could be in a police station with detectives walking around in the background. We know that there's activity occurring in the back, but the details are not important. Now, let's take a look at this film that I'm showing you right now. You can see this beautiful orchid standing out right in front, completely in focus, kind of transposed over this bay shot. And this clip, just to let you know, was a clip that I used in my last film.
It is just a B-roll, type of clip, but this orchid is very special to me. And this orchid was made and created in memory of my late mother. So this orchid is called the Walnita Char orchid. Now, when you look at the entire frame, you can see that there's a bay in the background. You can see it to the right, and you can see the water. But can you see the boats on the water? No, you can't. They're there, but you can't see them. Why can't you see them? Because that's not what's important in this scene.
I also want to point out that you don't need to have a DSLR to get bokeh, just a telephoto lens. That orchid shot in the CE alert clip, that was done with a very simple point and shoot camera. Okay, now besides zoom lens, what other features are you going to need? Well, I think that full HD or higher is really important. You need to have resolution that goes to that level. The camera itself should be at least 16 megapixels. Now, this is not a big deal for filmmaking. This is really for the still photographs that you're going to take. But the standard is quickly moving to 20. So you don't want to get any camera that does less than 16 frames per second. Every camera out there can do 30 frames per second. That's standard, not a big deal at all. The question is, can you find a camera that does 30 and 24p? That would be really nice to have. Lens filter compatibility. This is critical. Whatever camera you buy has to be compatible with some sort of lens filter, and this is going to be for a UV filter, the polarizer, the neutral density filter, otherwise known as ND. That ND filter, I can guarantee that you're going to need it on your first film. It's that important. So if you're looking at a camera that doesn't advertise itself as being compatible with a lens filter, I'm not so sure. Maybe there's a better camera that you should be looking at. Well, folks, I could talk about cameras all day, but I don't think that's going to do any of us any good. We're only about halfway through this subject, so we're going to have to end this episode here. But in the next episode, we're going to take up topics like mid-level cameras, the major brands, the models that I think would work best for you. We're going to talk about DSLR cameras, the different types, and make a list of some of the more affordable DSLR cameras if you want to go that route. We're probably going to make our overall recommendation on the camera that you should get if you don't have one right now. And if we have time, maybe we can talk about action cameras. Thank you for watching. Until the next episode, aloha. Or as Steve McGarrett would say, a hui ho.